right, we're going to play some games. There was something I wanted to talk about. I didn't talk about it last night, so I'll talk about it today. And that is some stuff that has happened over the past week with, I don't know, a couple of, I don't even know if I want to call them internet personalities. One of them is Jack Murphy. So this is a guy who sells all kinds of secondary products related to like masculinity and stuff like that. Well, turns out he did like a bunch of very degenerate, like amateur porn years ago that he didn't bother to confess about or, you know, scrub, including like having sex with other men, and apparently paid people on Tinder to have sex. You know, basically he paid to be cuckold. So these things are like, you know, relentlessly talked about with this guy, allegedly. Not allegedly to it, right? And so the whole kind of house of cards starts to fall down. But the point I really wanted to make about it is that, and then, oh yeah, this is the other one, was there was an author who had disappeared off social media for almost 2 years. And his pen name is Roman McClay, but his actual name last name is McLeod, I think. And so this guy went on a killing spree in Denver, Colorado, and went to several tattoo parlors and killed people that maybe he thought of as enemies. We don't know the whole story yet. This was another guy who sold a lot of his stuff based on this idea of masculinity. And so the point I wanted to make here about this is that it's a pattern that I noticed really a long time ago, and I don't know if I could dig up the article. I wrote an article on it that was pretty bad, so I might have deleted it and like meant to write another article. I call it the fatherless alpha male. And it's amazing how many people are just copy pastes of this template. And probably the best example of this, the example I used on Twitter was this guy, War Machine. And so I could probably just like find it real quick, because I didn't tweet it that long ago. But anyway, this guy War Machine, he legally changed his name to War Machine. He was an MMA fighter years ago, kind of middling, had a middling record. He sold these products. Here it is. I'll show it to y'all. Give me a sec. He sold these products that said like alpha male and stuff on the shirt. And his girlfriend was a porn star named Chrissy Mack. And so this picture here is just like the best example that I can find of this. This guy grew up without a father. He was institutionalized. He was in and out of prison. Routinely said he told people he was crazy, and I think more people probably should have believed him. Now, I called the fatherless alpha male because what was his life really is that he did pornography, including gay pornography, which means that he was receiving on the receiving end of gay sex. Now, if you're gay, that may not matter to you, but a lot of the faux masculinity guys sell everything as like a anti-gay kind of thing. Like, you're a man and, you know, you're going to dominate, and then you're taking it up the butt on camera for money. You're a whore, right? That's not really, you're not really Genghis Khan if you're having gay sex for money, right? If you're gay for pay, you're not some alpha male out in the world exerting your energy and making people do what you want them to do. You're literally submissive in that case, right? So he did that. Of course, he shares his partner. If his partner is a porn star, that means that his partner is having sex with other people all the time for money. Different people have different morals, but certainly having to share your wife is not really viewed through this lens of like this alpha male masculinity. You know, this is like a millennial cuckolding kind of thing. But anyway, that's what this guy's actual life was. But he sold this thing, this like, I do alpha male shit. Now, to his credit, he actually did fight in the ring and take punches and was probably a pretty tough guy as far as that, you know, physical ability to endure pain goes. But it's not really the image, that he's trying to sell. And at the same time, what's the reality is that he's actually psychotic. Like, he's fighting in the ring because he has severe emotional issues, and he's actually not in control of himself at all. So what happened was he broke up with Christy Mack, and or they broke up. She broke up with him. Now, they had tattoos of each other. Like, he had the word Mac, like you can kind of see it in this picture. It was tattooed on his neck. And then she got a tattoo somewhere that said, like, property of War Machine. Now, these are not people with emotionally stable lives to be able to do this, man. This is like it's a sign that these people have daddy issues to do either one of these, right? And so when they broke up, he tracked her down in Vegas and almost killed, like, a friend that she was with. Posted on Twitter, I think, that he was, like, found himself fighting for his life. Really, he just showed up and attacked them. I believe he attempted to kill his ex-girlfriend and raped her and did all kinds of other things. He ended up in prison, right? And he'd been in and out of jail as a youth, too. So this is somebody who is not masculine, doesn't understand masculinity because he'd never had an example of it. His example of masculine was the pseudo-masculinity, the machismo that you maybe get in the jail situation, which is very different from the masculinity of a Roman statesman, let's say, right? So the masculinity that is the patriarchal leadership of a family is very different from people surviving in prison. That's a totally different thing. So the fake guru, the fatherless alpha male, you see it copy pasted over and over again. People who had weak fathers, or their fathers were present, their parents were divorced, and so they grew up without a masculine influence, and they thought they rediscovered it at some point, and so they package it and sell it to other people who are fatherless and feel like they're low status. And that's what they do. It's a fake guru movement from people who don't really understand masculinity because they didn't really have a masculine influence in their life to teach them how things are supposed to be. So there's a very big difference between, a gladiator and Julius Caesar. And so I'll go with Roman examples because I like Romans. But, Julius Caesar is a conqueror. Julius Caesar was a statesman. Julius Caesar was Pontifex Maximus. He was the head priest. So he was the head of a religion in Rome, in addition to being all of those things. He was the patriarch of Rome. The title that Augustus, his adopted son and nephew, took on, the one he was most proud of, was father of his country. Not just pater familia, father of your family, but like father of your country, which means that he was the patriarch that not only controlled Rome, but protected it. So the masculinity of this, quote, civilized Roman, who was far from civilized the way we would think of it, of like somebody being weak and domesticated. These were people who went out and conquered and built societies. It's very different from that of the gladiator. The gladiator is a slave. The gladiator is forced to fight. The gladiator is forced to die. He may be very physically strong and intimidating and very maybe have a sexual power to him. There's, lots of rumors about Roman women going in and having liaisons with attractive gladiators because that is a kind of masculine energy. But that's very different from a Julius Caesar or an Augustus or any of the Roman statesmen who were just on a higher level, right? So you have to think about what kind of masculine energy you're selling. They're selling the energy of the slave, of the gladiator. They're not really selling the energy of the statesman, of the true patriarch. And that's what I call the fatherless alpha male. And Roman McClay was another one. He sold a lot of his books trying to do this false alpha male thing. He was covered with tattoos. He liked tattoos a lot. There's nothing wrong if you like tattoos. That's your thing, right? But tattoos are not masculine. There's nothing masculine about a tattoo. It's just a thing that maybe you like, maybe it expresses you. There's lots of reasons that people get tattoos. I don't have any personally, but I have lots of friends that have tattoos, and that's just a thing that they like. But getting a tattoo doesn't make you more manly, right? Christy Mack has lots of tattoos. She's not manly because she has tattoos, right? Tattoos are just a different thing. But people mistake that. They start to think, oh, well, like badass bikers have tattoos. Therefore, if I have tattoos, I'm like a Hell's Angel, and you view Hell's Angels as masculine. Hell's Angels are like the bottom rung of society. Now, you may think of them as having a masculine energy or male energy, but it's the energy of the gladiator. It's not the energy of the statesman. They really are bottom tier of society, and you have to look at it that way. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's my, yeah. He didn't break up with her. She broke up with him, and he tracked her down and tried to kill her, is what he tried to do to Christy Mack. Yeah. So really, what did he use his power to do? He used it to assault people who are weaker than him, that he's automatically has a position of power over because of his physical arrangement. It's why we tend to view like hitting women, even if they are violent, as being, something that's a little bit, you shouldn't do. Like, you shouldn't hit girls even if they're attacking you, or if you're going to try to stop a woman from attacking you, there's an expectation that you're going to use the minimum amount of force to remove that threat. Not that, like, a woman attacks you and you just knock her out with one punch and break her face. If a man had attacked you, people wouldn't blink. Oh, well, he threw the first punch and then this other guy just knocked him out. He got what was coming to him. You tend not to think that way with girls because we understand that women are physically less robust. They're less able to harm, and they take harm. They get harmed more easily. So you are expected to use the minimum amount of force to subdue females or to make them, stop attacking you or whatever it is. Anyway, so that's the fatherless alpha male. And if you go and you look at a lot of the masculinity gurus, you're going to see a lot of this. And one of the big red flags that you see, and one of them with this killer, Roman McClay, is that his book was full of fantasies about violence. So his book was about a protagonist enacting a lot of violence, torture, or murder upon other people that he viewed as his enemies. Now, these are fantasies of the author rather than a protagonist who uses violence in the way Julius Caesar might, right? Like, a knight in shining armor does not, doesn't torture people, right? He defends those who are weak. He acts in a chivalrous manner. Yes, he uses violence because violence is part of the masculine sphere. Violence creates society. If you don't have violence, you don't have society. That's how it is. Because violence and the threat of violence is what controls behavior. But the knight doesn't find a person that he thinks is from a category he doesn't like and then have fantasies of torturing him. I've seen a bunch of, quote, right-wing media do this over the last couple of years. One of them was this indie comic Lone Star, which I'm not a fan of. But the first opening sequence, which is just a ripoff of Venom Lethal Protector #1. It's just like almost a panel-for-panel ripoff of it. You have the hero drops in on a woman being robbed or something. She's being threatened by MS-13, and it's this caricature of like a Latin gang members. They're like standing around in an alley. Why the woman's in the alley, we don't know. But she's there, and they're going to do bad things to her. And so he proceeds to like torture one of them, and that's your introduction to the hero. Now, for Venom Lethal Protector, what he does is he simply kills the bad guy, and the woman is horribly shocked by the fact that he just killed this purse snatcher. And then he hands her purse back and like pats her on the head and then like zooms off like he's trying to be Spider-Man. And that's kind of the frame of Venom Lethal Protector, is that he's basically trying to be Spider-Man, but he doesn't have morals. He's like the anti-hero Spider-Man. Having anti-heroes sit down and torture people, though, like Venom didn't bother to torture people. He killed somebody. But in having those scenes of torture really says something to me about the artist and the writer and what they are fantasizing about. So, his books, Roman McClay's books, which I've never really tried to read them because what I've seen of them was just unreadable. And you can't get them now. Amazon took them all down. But he had reviews from like a lot of different people that said like crazy things about him without really describing what was in them. But if they have those fantasies of violence, then you can bet that somebody's got a screw loose there. So, the knight in shining armor is simply competent from account. He won't default to violence, but you're screwed if he uses it. Yeah, so I had a character in one of my books, the Needle Ash trilogy of books, and Michael, Prince Michael, someone described him as a prince in shining armor type, and that's him. He's a very competent military leader. He's a competent soldier. He's somewhat naive about politics. That's his weakness, is that he thinks totally in terms of the battlefield and in terms of what's right and wrong as a soldier, and doesn't really think about politics correctly at all, and it ends up being his initial downfall, is that he doesn't, and even then he acts kind of unilaterally to try to save the day, and ends up like being punished for it because he didn't follow orders as a soldier. He still didn't act correctly on the battlefield. And he's a guy who ends up killing a guy in a duel, and he doesn't necessarily want to do that, but he's not afraid to do it when the time comes. And he kills the guy like very quickly because, he's competent. He's been trained since birth to be a military commander. Of course, he knows how to use a sword. And that's very different from somebody who, if I had him stop and like torture somebody to get information or something, you're stepping across a line where somebody is really doing something sadistic. And then they are no longer using violence in a way that protects people, but rather they're enacting it in a way that is designed to hurt people. And in this Lone Star comic, he's torturing the guy to, quote, teach him a lesson, like breaks his fingers and stuff. So torture scenes are usually going to be indicative of a villain, not a hero. And so if they get pasted onto a hero, almost always it's some kind of misunderstanding in the author's turn of what masculinity is. There's nothing masculine about torturing people, right? In fact, the king usually had a torturer who was like an Edda, an untouchable, Burakumin, whatever. He was an untouchable person, like lowest of the low, to do the dirty work of torturing people to get information because the king was above it and the knights were above it. They didn't want to subject themselves to that kind of disgusting kind of thing. So anyway, that's my thing. Fatherless alpha male. You'll notice a lot of the fake gurus, that's what they do. It's just a copy paste of the same thing over and over again with these guys. And they glow in the dark. That's right. Did you hear about